Hey guys, howdy do. I'm Karen Adamski with ShamaMama.com, and today for my video blog I would like to just share a note that I wrote to my teacher, Dr. Stephen Sir. He's been my teacher for the last few years with my shamanic studies, and I've learned so much from him. And I was going through some old journals and old emails and things today, and this one caught my eye for some reason, and I thought it might be a really good one to share with you guys because it kind of gives you a feel for what it's like to go on a shamanic journey. And that would be, shamanic journey is kind of where a shamanic practitioner does kind of a meditation, and it brings you to a place, they call it a shamanic state of consciousness. So it's an altered state of consciousness. However, you're keeping one foot in this reality, this human world that we're on, and then you have one foot in like a spirit world, and you kind of learn to walk that line. So this was kind of along that time where I was learning to walk that line, and just in reading this, I think this was a big lesson for me. I didn't really know it at the time, but looking back at it now, I think this lesson had a lot to do with me understanding there's things out there that I didn't know about at the time and didn't understand and didn't even really think were possible. So kind of cool to read it. So I just wanted to read the email, the notes from myself to my teacher with you, and just share. So here we go. A journey to the place of crashing rocks. Apprehensive is very much how I was feeling about taking this journey to the place of the crashing rocks. It all sounded so mysterious, and I can honestly say I was a little bit scared about it. But I trust you as my teacher, and I trust my spirit helpers, so I knew that there was no way I was going to miss out on this opportunity. But I will say it again, I was feeling nervous about it. My journey began with me sitting in a wooden canoe in the middle of the ocean. I could see land in the distance in front of me, so I started paddling toward it. I looked down at the water and instantly became uncomfortable because I could tell I was in very, very deep water. The water was almost black, so I knew it was incredibly deep. Deep water is one of my greatest fears. I took a deep breath and told myself that I was safe. As I continued to paddle, I felt something bump my canoe. I looked down and I saw Whale was there by my side. She had a playful look in her eyes, and I know she bumped my boat as a playful gesture, but all I really wanted to do was cry. I was worried that her large body was going to hit my boat and make me turn over. Instead of bumping my boat again, Whale pushed me and my canoe toward the land. As we got closer to land, I could see the color of the water changing. It was getting shallower as we got closer to the land. We got to a point where the water was a beautiful turquoise. Whale told me this was as far as she could go, as the water from this point on was much too shallow for her. I looked ahead and saw there was a cave at the base of the cliffs in front of me. I asked Whale if that is where I was supposed to go, and she said yes, while giving me a shove in that direction. I did a U-turn in the canoe and went back to Whale. I said I didn't want to go in there without her, and she explained that this is a journey that I need to take by myself. I told her I was nervous because I thought something scary might happen to me. Whale slapped her tail on the water really hard, and the noise and vibration shook me to my bones. Like every little fiber of my being was being shaken. She told me that if I ever get scared or need help balancing myself, to remember how her tail slap feels. The vibration will keep me safe. I asked if she would wait for me to come back, and she said she would. So I headed toward the cave in the cliffs. When I got to the opening of the cave, I saw that it was a water cave, so I could simply paddle in. The water was fairly calm, and nothing looked threatening, although all I could see inside the cave was darkness. It was silent inside, so I paddled in. I could see inside the cave because there was daylight coming from the cave opening. The farther I ventured into the cave, the darker it got. I had gone in far enough that I could just barely see the rock walls, when all of a sudden it felt and sounded like an earthquake. Rocks started falling from the cave ceiling. The size of the falling rocks started getting bigger and bigger. Woo! What was that? Woo! It felt like something just touched me. Okay, bigger and bigger. I thought about jumping out of the canoe and turning it upside down and putting it over my head for protection. Then I saw a little alcove in the cave wall to my right. I jumped into the protective alcove while rocks continued to fall inside the cave. As they hit my boat, I worried that it would break into pieces and I would really be stuck. I remembered that what Whale had told me about the tail slap. I thought about it. Actually, I kind of meditated on it and I felt myself becoming calmer. I could feel the vibration throughout my body. I saw my canoe was drifting away, so I reached out to grab it. And when my arm left the protection of the alcove, a boulder fell right on my arm. The amazing thing is that the boulder went right through my arm. I could feel a cold sensation as the boulder passed through my arm, but that was about it. I sat there for a minute trying to figure out what was happening. I reluctantly stuck my arm out again, and the same thing happened. I instinctively knew that if I were to consciously stay in this state, my vibration was high enough that solid objects would pass right through me. I got back into the canoe, and the falling rocks continued to pass through me and the boat as well. I could still see the cave entrance that I had traveled through, and I had to decide if I wanted to go further into the cave or go back out to the open ocean. I had a thought that seemed so profound at the time. This is what happens when you go to the place of crashing rocks. You're put into a position to make a difficult choice. Turn back or continue on. I decided to continue on. It seemed the cave was really more of a tunnel, a long one. I could not see anything, so I let the canoe drift through the tunnel on its own. Rocks were still falling, but I was feeling more confident as they passed through me. I actually bent my head back and looked up to the ceiling and extended my arms to the sides, like you do when you walk out into the snow. I felt so liberated. I saw a light up ahead and I knew that I was almost out of the tunnel. When I came out of the tunnel, I was still in the canoe and I was floating down a small river. It looked like I was in a jungle setting, but I did not hear anything. It was completely silent. I saw a little landing area at the side of the river, so I pulled in the canoe and got out. There was a small muddy path, so I decided to follow it. I came to another cave, so I walked in. Although this cave was dark, it never was completely black. Once I entered, I could see light in the distance, so I walked toward that. The light was coming from a huge hole in the ceiling. The hole had tree roots like ropes growing down into it. I climbed up one of the long roots and arrived at an upper level of land. Nearby, I saw a base of an incredibly steep mountain, and sitting there was what looked like an old wooden toboggan. The toboggan had a vine attached to it, and the vine ran up the mountain. I instinctively laid down on the toboggan and held on. The vine started pulling me up the huge mountain. As I got closer to the top of the mountain, I could see the vine was actually part of a tree, and it was the tree itself that was helping me. I made a point of thanking the tree. When the toboggan stopped on the mountaintop, I climbed off and looked around. I could see all around me for miles. I discovered that I was actually on an island. The river I was on goes through the island from end to end. I had entered the island on the north side of the river, and the river emptied on the south side. From where I was, it looked like I may have to travel through another tunnel to get off the island. I took some time to sit on the mountaintop and enjoy the beauty of the island that I was on. It was still silent, and there were still no signs of people or animals. As I was sitting on the ground, I noticed some interesting rocks in the earth. I pulled a couple out and was surprised to see that one was fluorite, and the other looked to be either rose quartz or pink calcite. I was thrilled with this discovery. As I looked closer at these stones, I took notice of the different colored veins running through them. It occurred to me that these stones were a living part of the earth. I felt bad that I had pulled them out of the earth, so I gently dug a hole and planted the crystals back into the earth. I felt like I had been on this journey for a very long time. I had set my drumming CD for 90 minutes, and it felt like the callback would be coming soon. So I laid back down on the toboggan and started zooming down head first down the mountain. It was so much fun. I made my way back to my canoe, continued down the river. As I got near the south end of the island, I could see that I did indeed need to go through another tunnel to exit the island. As soon as I entered the tunnel, I quickly realized it was not a tunnel, but an opening of a tornado. I was quickly sucked into the tornado and was amazed at all of the stuff that was flying around in there. It reminded me of the tornado scene from The Wizard of Oz. As the stuff was flying around, it was hitting me, but it went right through me. I was consciously thankful for the whale tail vibration. As I got to the eye of the tornado, I was shot out into the ocean on the southern part of the island, where As I got to the eye of the tornado, I was shot out into the ocean on the southern part of the island. As I was being shot out, I looked down and could see that I would be landing in the black water of the ocean. I fell very deep into the ocean and made an effort not to panic. I held on to the high vibration and made a point to relax and breathe. Once I realized I could easily breathe underwater, I felt pretty calm. I looked around under the ocean and saw what looked to be an underwater mountain with caves on the mountain face. It looked like people used to live in the caves, and I thought to myself that this would be a good place to come back to and explore at some point. I swam to the top of the ocean and was greeted by Whale. I was so happy to see her. I told her, "I did it!" And she looked at me, and I could tell that she was pleased. She had a look of, "I told you so," on her face. I thanked Whale, and I told her that I really appreciate her helping me with this journey. Upon my return to ordinary reality, I found that I had only been on this journey for 62 minutes. I sat and thought about what I had experienced. There were so many lessons in this journey. And I am so glad that I continued forward and did not turn back, which is just one of the many lessons I learned. I also learned that, for me, the place of the crashing rocks is not just the cave where the ceiling was coming down, but the entire island. I have a feeling there are many more places to explore on this island and many more lessons to be learned. So that was it. That's my note to my teacher. And I have not gone back to the place of the crashing rocks. But I think because I found this email and shared it, I will try to travel there in the next few days during my meditation. So I hope that was insightful, and I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope you're well. Be kind, be happy. Namaste. I'll see you tomorrow.